Hi, dear viewers. A very warm welcome to another session on Excel. In today's session, we will discuss about logical function if, multiple if in combination with or, if in combination with and, if in combination with NA. We will talk about cell referencing, that is absolute cell referencing, relative cell referencing, and mixed cell referencing. To begin with if function is one of the most powerful function in Excel, and it allows you to make logical comparisons between value and what you expect. So an if function can have two results. The first result, if your comparison is true, and second, if your comparison is false. The syntax of if function: if the logical test, the test you want to perform, and what value you want if the logical test is passed, or followed by the value that you want if the logical test is false or is failed. So in this syntax, we are basically giving three arguments. First one is the logical test, and the second one is the value that you want, and the third one is value you want if the logical test is false. So remember here, the first two, that is logical test and the first value that you want when the logical test is passed, are mandatory, while the third one is optional. And here, if you don't give the third argument, that is the value that you want when the logical test fails, by default, Excel will assign the value false. So let's move on. And here we have put up some examples for you. So let's look at these examples in detail. So the first example is, if the value in cell A3 is yes, then the system should return 1. And if the value in cell A3 is anything other than yes, it should return value 2. So here you can see in this cell, we have put value yes. So the logical test is passed. So here we are getting 1. If we change this to no, the value becomes 2. Or if we give any other value, even if we give test, the value will remain 2. Because what we have asked the system to do is to check the value in cell B3. And if the value in cell B3 is yes, then only it should return 1. Otherwise, it will return 2. So only if yes is there, then only we will have 1. Other than yes, if there is any other value in cell B3, the system or the Excel will always return us the value as 2. The second example says that if the value in cell E3, which is this one, is 1, then it should give us, the result should be yes, otherwise it should be no. So if we change it to 2 or to any other number, then the value, the result will remain as no. The second, here, in these two examples, we have done a very simple comparison just to read the value and give us the resultant value. Now, if we look at some more examples here, what the system is doing is it is comparing the values what are in column C with the values in column B, and it is helping us to classify the items whether this particular line item is over budget or within budget. Then in next example here, we are not only classifying the items, but we are doing some calculation. So here, what we have asked the system to do is compare the value in column G with the values in column F. And if the value in column G is greater than value in column F, it will do the calculation. So it will deduct the value in column G from column F. Otherwise, it will simply put 0. So till now, what we have discussed is the values that we are comparing from a particular cell, and we are using the same cells for doing our calculations. But in our next example, which is here, we are saying that check the value for in a specific cell, and if the value is the value in that specific cell meets our logical test, then it will perform a calculation. So here in column M8, we are saying that if the value is yes, it is calculating the amount of sales tax for us. And if we change this value to no, the calculation is gone. Or even if we delete, if there is no value, then also it is not doing any calculation for us. It will do the calculation only when the value in this particular cell is yes. So this is how we can use the if function, not only to do comparisons, uh, but after comparison, we can ask the system to do different tasks or to follow a different set of activities depending on the result of the logical test. Now, let's move further. Here, remember one thing, if you are going to use text in formulas, you need to wrap the text in quotes, that is within inverted comma. The only exception to that is using true or false, which Excel automatically understands. Let's see this. Here, the formula says if E4 here, the formula says if E4 is yes, E4 is 1, then it should give us yes, otherwise it should give us no. So here you see we have not put yes within inverted commas. That's why we are getting this error message. So the moment we put inverted commas around this yes, we will get the result. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if we are using the words true or false, then we need not to use inverted commas. So here I can simply write true, comma, false, enter. Still, I'm getting the result without any error because as discussed here, still understands true or false even without inverted commas. At times, when you are using the if function, you may encounter these two errors in your result. And why these errors, or what is the reason behind these errors? The first one is the zero error that you are getting, because here, if you look it closely, what is happening is in this formula, we have given the logical test, but we have not entered the arguments that what it needs to do if the value is if the logical test pass or if the logical test fails. So that is the reason here we are getting 0. The second error that we will get is we have already discussed that if we are saying yes, comma, no, sorry, let me change this to 12. So here we are getting error message because we have not clearly, we have used here text, but that text has not been entered within inverted commas. So these are the reasons why we get this error messages, and how to overcome this error messages I have explained to you. So be very careful with this. If when you are using the if statement and if you are getting 0 as your result, then the only possible reason is you have not entered all the required arguments or you have not written the complete syntax. And if you are getting hash name as your result in the cell, that means there is some error in formula, some inverted commas are missing. Moving further, multiple if functions. So if we know what is if function, right? So an if statement should apply to minimal conditions such as male or female, yes, no, or maybe, or to just name a few. But sometimes you might need to evaluate more complex scenarios that require nesting more than three if functions together. So how to do that? Here, if logical test, value if true, then followed by another if statement or if function, then logical test followed by the value if the statement is true or the logical test is true, and followed by value if the logical test is false. While Excel will allow you to nest up to 64 different if functions. So here in this syntax, I have used only two if functions, right? But in Excel, you can use up to 64 different if functions. But it is not advisable to do so. Why? Because multiple if statements require a great deal of thought to build correctly and make sure that their logic can calculate correctly through each condition all the way to the end. Because here we are using only two if statements, right? So we it is very easy that, okay, if this logical test is passed, then this is what needs to be done. Secondly, if this logical test is passed, then this is what it needs to be done. And if it is false, then this is what you want the system to do for you. So if you are using 64 if functions, then right from the very first if function till end, you will have to build it in such a way that it should calculate through each step accurately. And if you don't nest your formula 100% accurately, then there are very high chances that 75% of the times you will get the result what you are expecting. But rest 25% times, it may not give you the expected results. And unfortunately, the biggest challenge here is to figure out that out of those all 64 different if functions, or 10, 12, whatever the number of if functions you are using, where you have actually did an error. Moreover, if multiple if statements can become incredibly difficult to maintain, especially when you come back sometime later and try to figure out what you or some worst case scenario someone else was trying to do. So today you are creating a file in which you have used, say, 20 odd if functions, considering all the possible scenarios, and you got your results. That's fine. But after, say, 2 months or 3 months, if you want to revisit the same file and make some modifications or changes in that if function, it will become very, very difficult to actually recollect that what logic you used and at what step, what test you did and what result you expected. Furthermore, if someone else has created that if function for you using like 38, 40 for, or whatever the number is, if functions, then understanding that and maintaining it or updating it will be a Herculean task. So it is not advisable to use too many if functions as a nested function. And nesting is nothing but it refers to the practice of joining multiple functions together in one formula. So this is just a technical term. So just thought to share this additional piece of information with you. Nevertheless, it is if you can master the use of if function or multiple if functions, it can give you tremendous results. So here are some examples of multiple if functions. Now, this can be incredibly problematic in lot of situations. So that's why it is advisable that if after 5 or 6, I personally restrict myself to using 12 if functions. So that differs from person to person. It's your personal decision. So if you think that the number of if functions that you have to use in a particular file or in a particular formula is very high, then it is advisable to use the VLOOKUP function. So let's look at some examples of multiple ifs. So here, the first, sorry, the first example shows that here we have got students, the marks they have scored, and in this column C, we have assigned grades using the if function. So this is the formula that we have used. So here we have used multiple if functions. So first of all, the student in the first example, the student has scored 73 marks. So first, uh, if a statement says that if B3 is greater than 89, then it will assign A grade. So obviously 73 is not greater than 89. So it moved on to the next statement. If B3 is greater than 79, obviously 73 is not greater than 79. Then it moved to the third statement where it says if B3 is greater than 69. So yes, B3 is greater than 73 is greater than 69, so it has assigned grade C. Now, the moment the condition satisfied, the if function stops its execution there. So it will not go and see whether the value in B3 is greater than 59 or not, because here it found that the value in cell B3 is greater than 69. It has assigned the grade and it stops there. I hope this is clear to you. Moving on to next example here again, the working of the formula is same, but here we have made some more complex. We made it little bit more complex. Like here we were saying that if the value is greater than 89, it should assign A. But here we are saying if it is greater than 97, then A plus. If it is greater than 93, A. If it is greater than 89, then A minus. So what we have done is this, uh, the what you can say, the range of marks greater than 89 has been further subdivided into three categories. Similarly, the marks between 79 to 89 were further subdivided into three categories. So this is just extension of this. And here also the formula will work in the same manner and fashion how the formula worked for us in the first example of multiple ifs. Now, moving on to third example here. Here, what this is the base data. By base data, what I mean is here we have the guidance that okay, if the revenue is $5,000, then the rate of commission or will be 10%. The commission amount would be 500. If it is 7,500, it will be 12.5, 938, so on and so forth. So here in this cell, that is I9, we have entered the revenue for a particular shop or a particular sales or a particular resource, whatever the case may be. So basis this, here we have put the if function. So by reading the value in in cell I9, Excel will assign the value for the rate for commission, and basis the rate of commission, the commission amount will be calculated. So here again, if we go step by step, if the value in I9 is greater than 15,000, the value should be 20%. So obviously 9,950 is not greater than 15,000. So the first test, the first logical test is failed. So the system moved on to the second logical test. That is if I9 is greater than 12,500. So obviously 9,950 is not greater than 12,500. So it moved on to the next one. That is, if I9 is greater than 10,000. So obviously 9,950 is not greater than 10,000. So it moved to the next test where it says if I9 is greater than 7,500. Yes, 9,950 is greater than 7,500. So the rate of commission will be 12.5%. So far, so good. Now let's move on to this example. Here also in this example, everything is same. But the if you look at the sales level, if you look at the commission percentage, if you look at the commission amount, if you look at the sales amount or revenue amount, everything is same. But still, here we are getting the rate of commission is 10%. Why? If you look at the formula a little bit closely and examine these two formulas closely, what is the difference that you can observe? Here in the second case, what we did is we started writing the logic from in ascending order, you can say. We said that if the value of I9, which is here, ideally which should be M9 actually, uh, so it's a typo error. So, but the formula wise, we have, oops, in the formula also it is saying the same. So, if the value in I9 is greater than 5,000, then it should assign 10%. So here in the very first step, the condition is met. That is 9,950 is greater than 5,000. So it is assigned the value of 10%. So as I told you here, when we were discussing this example, that as soon as the uh, nested, uh, uh, nested loop of if finds reach onto a point where the condition is met, it will perform the task and the loop stops there. So here what it did, it checked the value in B3. The moment it found that yes, the value in B3, that is 73, is greater than 69, it assigned the grade, that is C grade, and it stopped here itself. So same thing happened here. The moment it found that the value which is in this cell M9 is greater than 5,000, it assigned the rate of commission, which is 10%, and never bothered to check rest of the conditions. So here, this remember this thing very clearly. Whenever you are uh, dealing with values, always write the if function in descending order. So there is no error in this formula. This formula is absolutely correct, and the result what we are getting is also correct as per the formula. But what we wanted, that if the sales value is between 7,500 and if it is greater than 7,500, the rate of commission should be 10%. So here, as per this data, the result that we are getting is incorrect. So the only reason is we have started writing the formula in the ascending order. So always remember, when you are dealing with numbers or any quantitative value, use write the if function in descending order. So uh, that's a must follow, or a must to follow rule, or a thumb rule, you can say, for writing if functions, especially multiple if functions. Now, there is a new function introduced in Office 365, that is ifs. So ifs is nothing but a replacement for multiple if functions. So if you write the if function like this here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have to use the if, we have to write the function if 4 times. But if you are using ifs function, you can just write the ifs in the very beginning, and then you can give your logic. Um, or you can give your logical test, multiple logical test, and the action that you want the system to perform for you basis those logical tests. So with use of ifs function, you are not required to write the function if again and again, again and again in the formula. But as I told you, this is available only in Office 365. If you are using any other version of Excel, then you may not find the ifs function in your Excel. So you will have, unfortunately, you have no choice but to use write if multiple times. Now, let's discuss about if function with and, or, and not. So how it works. So the if function allows you to make logical comparison between a value and what you expect by testing a condition and returning a result if that condition is true or false. This is what we have discussed already. But at times you may want to test multiple conditions where you will say all the conditions needs to be true or false, or only one condition needs to be true or false, or you want to check if condition does not meet your criteria. All the three functions can be used on their own. That means you can use them even without if, but it is uh, very much common to use them paired with if function. So it makes uh, the formula little more presentable or a little bit easy to understand. So if we talk about syntax, if bracket start end bracket close, then if uh, and logical function 1, logic 2, what if the value is true and what if the value is false. If using with or, if or logical function 1, logical function 2, then value if it is true and followed by value if it is false. If not, then logical function and then value if true and value if false. Here we have explained it in simple language, in pure English, that what is the syntax. So we have already discussed it, so I will not spend much time in discussing this again. But always remember that and or function can support up to 255 individual conditions. So if we go back to our previous slide, if you see here, if and logic 1 comma logic 2 comma dot dot dot. So these dot represents 255 test. So that means with if when you are using if with and, or if you are using if with or, you can give up to 255 logical test that needs to that you can check. But if we talk about not, it supports only one condition at a time. But it's not a good practice to use more than few, because it is very complex and nested formula can get very difficult to build, test, and maintain. And as I told you, the not function only takes one condition. So this is how actually it the if with and if with or works. So here I have taken example of two logical tests only. So if you are using if with and you have two logical tests, so when both the conditions are true, then action 1 will be executed. If the first logical test is passed, but the second logical test fails, then second action will be performed. If the first logical test fails, second logical test pass, then also the second action will be performed. If both the logical test fails, then also the second action will be performed. Whereas in case of or, if both the tests are passed, the first action will be performed. If first logical test is passed, second fails, then also first action will be executed. If the first logical test fails, the second logical test pass, then also first action will be executed. And if both the logical test fails, then only the second action will be performed. Because here what we are saying is both the conditions should be met, then only execute action number 1. Otherwise, execute action number 2. But here we are saying if any of the logical test is passed, execute the first action. And if both the logical test fails, then only execute the second action. So here we are talking about if function with NA. So if function with NA returns the value you specify if the formula returns the hash NA error value. Otherwise, it returns the result of the formula. So this is the syntax for it. Arguments, both the arguments are required. So now before we proceed further, let's look at some examples. So here we have two values, and here we have put a formula that if and P2 is less than 0 and C2 is less than 100, then give us true. And as we discussed earlier, if we are using the true and false, then it is not needed to put them within inverted commas. Here we are saying if the value in B3 is red and C3 is green, then say true, otherwise false. So here the first condition fails. That is, there is no value as red. That's why it has written as the value of false. Here we are using if with or. We are saying if the value in B4 is less than 0 and the value in C4 is greater than 50, then true. So here obviously there is no 0, but the 75 is greater than 50. So one condition is met. So we are getting the value as true. In this example, again, there is no red, but there is green. So one of the condition is met. That's why we are getting the value, returning value as true. With not, as we discussed, there will be only one condition. So if not, we are saying if the value in value here in B6 is less than 50, then true. So obviously the value in B6 is 25, which is less than 50. So it is showing us as true. And here if not, that means the value in A7 is not equals to red, then true. So it is giving us the value as true. So this is how we can use if with and or and not. Now talking about NA. So just for the time being, I'm hiding this out and let's focus on this. So here, what we are doing is we have name of city and region code. So here we have entered the city and here we have used the VLOOKUP function to find out that whether this particular name of this particular city is appearing in this table or not. If the value is appearing in this table, the system should populate here the regional code. So for example, let's take Portland and let's paste it here. So the moment we have changed the value from Seattle to Portland, it has given us the regional code 142. But if I put Seattle or if I put any other city, it is giving me error message that is NA, which shows that the city or the value that I'm looking for in this particular table is not in the table. That's why it is giving me error message NA. So this now this NA looks little bit weird. So we use if function here with NA. So now what we are telling the system is if the returning value is NA, then instead of showing it as NA, it should show us as not found. So here, if I change the city, still it is not coming here. But the moment I pick up a city from this particular table, it will show me the regional code for that city. If I change it to some other city, again, instead of showing it as NA, it will show me as the value that I can see here is not found. So instead of not found, you can write any other thing, any other message also. If I may write here city not in list. So now it is, instead of showing not found, it will start showing me city not in list. So that's how we use if with NA. Now moving further, let's talk about cell referencing. So what cell referencing means? A cell reference refers to a cell or range of cell on a worksheet and can be used in a formula so that Microsoft Office Excel can find the values or data that you want that formula to calculate. This is the simple explanation for cell reference. In one or several formulas, you can use cell references to refer to data from one or more uh, contiguous cells on the worksheet, or data contained in different areas of worksheet, or data on other worksheet in the same workbook, so on and so forth. Basically, instead of, say, for example, here, if I want to do a calculation that is 4 uh, and 5, I want to add these two numbers. So the one way is I can simply write 4 plus 5 to get my result, which is 9. Or rather than, again, these numbers are not constant. Say, for example, these numbers will keep on changing. So rather than uh, typing 4 and 5, what I can do is I will say 4, the value in J8 plus value in J9. So here I am getting the same result, that is 9. But the moment I will change this to 6, here it has not changed, because here I have asked the system to calculate 4 plus 5. But here the value has changed because I have asked the system to do the sum of values which are in cell J8 and J9. So this is what is referencing means. In this formula, I'm not writing the values, but I'm referring to some particular cells. So this is little bit about referencing. But if we talk about referencing in detail, so there are basically three types of referencing. That is relative reference, absolute reference, and mixed reference. Let's understand this in detail. When we talk about relative reference, these cells refers these cell references that adjust itself when the cell is copied, and cells are copied are called relative cell reference in Excel. Relative cell reference are useful when you have to create a formula for range of cells and the formula needs to refer to a relative cell reference. In such cases, you can create a formula for one cell and copy and paste it into all the cells. So let's see an example here. So here I have got the items. This is the price, unit price of each item. This is the quantity I bought. Now, if I want to calculate the amount, what I will have to do is I will have to multiply the price with quantity. So now I have created this formula once. Now I need not to enter the formula again and again. What I will do is I will simply copy this and I will paste this formula over here. So now you can see that what's happening is here in this cell we have entered C2 multiplied by D2. But the moment I copied this formula and pasted here, it got adjusted. C3 multiplied by D3. In the next column, in the next row, it becomes C5 multiplied by D5. C6 multiplied by D6. So when we are creating a formula like this, we call it relative referencing. Now, if we talk about the next type of referencing, that is absolute referencing, here, unlike relative cell reference. Absolute cell reference does not change when you copy the formula to other cell. So here we have seen that the moment we started copying and pasting these formulas, right? If we paste it here, so here it is giving us 0, because what it is doing is it is multiplying these two cells, which is G2 and H2. And obviously there are no values in G2 and H2. That's why the result is 0. If I copy this formula anywhere on the worksheet, it will adjust automatically. Now see, it is doing a multiplication for L8 multiplied by M8. But the result is 0 because obviously these two cells are blank. So in uh, absolute referencing, whenever you are copying and pasting the formula is getting adjusted at its own. Whereas when we talk about absolute referencing, the cell reference does not change when you copy and paste the formula to other cell. Absolute cell reference are useful when you don't want the cell reference to change as you copy formula. This could be the case when you have a fixed value that you need to use in formula, such as tax rate, commission rate, number of months, etc. So when there is one value which is fixed and you want to use the same value again and again in the formula for doing the calculations, that's when we use absolute referencing. While you can also hard code this value in the formula, that is use of 20% instead of um, uh, the cell reference, having it in the cell, then using the cell reference allows you to change it in at a future date. So one may say that instead of referring to a particular sale for the tax rate or the commission rate or the number of months, etc., why we cannot put that value itself in the formula? Yes, you can do that, but the only challenge is like at a later date, if you want to change the tax rate or the commission rate or the number of month, then you will have to actually go inside the formula, change the value in formula, and copy and paste that formula again in your worksheet. But if you use a cell reference, then you will have to just make the update the tax rate or the commission rate or number of month in that particular cell, and it will have it will get replicated in all the places wherever you have used that particular cell. Sorry. So before moving further, let's look at an example here. Now here we have used the same formula, and here we are calculating the commission. So for calculating the commission, what we have done is we have used these two values, that is amount and the rate of commission. So we are multiplying the amount with the rate of commission. So here we have let me remove this formula and rewrite this formula. This like this. Now, when I will copy this formula, what will happen is this H1 has become constant. It is not changing. Even if I copy this formula and paste it somewhere else in the sheet, you can see that now what it is doing is it is multiplying the value in K4 with H1. Here it is multiplying the value in N2 with H1. Here it is multiplying the value in P3 with H1. So H1 has become constant. It is not changing no matter wherever you are copying and pasting the formula. So this is absolute referencing. So far, the calculation has been done basis 20%. What if I change now, as I discussed with you earlier, that instead of writing this formula, we can easily write this as well, multiplied by 0.2. So then also we will get the result. And if I will copy and paste, I'm getting the same results. And if I'm copying and pasting it anywhere else, then also I'm getting the same results. That's fine. But now what if I have to change it from 20% to say 25%? So what happened here? All the formulas get updated automatically, but here it has not got changed automatically. Even if I change this, the value will change only in that particular formula where I have made the change. Then again, I will have to copy and paste. Sorry, I will have to copy and paste this formula all through my sheet. And if I have used this formula somewhere else, like here, still it is showing as 20% only, right? But if I copy this formula and if I paste this formula here and here also, and now if I change it to say 10%, so here it has changed and it has changed here, here also. Say for example, here if I put 100 and here I put 200, and if I change it again to 15%, so it is not changing here only, but it is changing here also. So this is the benefit of using absolute referencing. The last before moving on to the last topic for the day, that is mixed referencing, let's understand this. So if you look at this formula, here we have used the, if you look the formula closely, you will find that here we have used this dollar sign, whereas we have not, uh, if we talk about relative referencing, we have not in the relative referencing formula, we have not used the dollar sign. So what does this dollar sign does for us? Let's understand that. This dollar sign is very important. What it does is, a dollar sign will added in front of the row and column number. It makes it absolute. That is, stops the row and column number from changing when copied to other cell. So if you are putting this dollar sign in front of the row number, column number and the row number, then you copy it and paste it anywhere on the worksheet, it will not change the, it will not allow the formula to change. For example, in the above case, when I copied the formula E2 to E3, it changed from D multiplied by G1, G2 to D3 multiplied by G1. Uh, so here the G1 is not changing, but the D2 has changed to D3. Since we have added the dollar symbol in front of G and 1 in G1, it won't let the cell reference to change when it is copied. So that's the importance of your dollar sign. Hence, this makes the cell reference absolute. Now, if we talk about mixed referencing means what? Mixed cell reference are bit more tricky than that of absolute and relative cell reference. Why? There can be two types of mixed cell referencing. First, the row is locked while the column changes when the formula is copied. That means you have put a dollar sign in front of the row, but whenever you will copy the formula, the columns will keep on changing. Or the second is, the column is locked. That means you have put a dollar sign in front of the column, but row number, in front of row number, you have not used the dollar sign. So the moment you will keep on copying the formula, the rows will keep on changing, but the column will not will not change. It is where it is used. Mixed cell reference are used when you are in a situation when you want only row or column to change when the formula is copied and pasted. Change the formula, that is change in row or column, depends on the direction in which you are copying and pasting the data. So let's look at the example. If we talk about mixed referencing here, uh, we have calculated the amount. Now here, what we have calculated is, we have calculated the amount, and instead of using the amount, we have used the price and quantity to calculate the amount. And if it is in tier 1, the commission is 10%. Here you see we have used the dollar sign in front of the row number. Okay. And here we have used the dollar sign in front of the column number. And here also we have used the dollar sign in front of the column number. So that means when we will copy this formula, the C will remain constant and D will remain constant, but this 4, uh, C4 will become C5 and D4 will become D5. But here the F will become, the F will become G, but this 2 will remain constant. So let's see. Let me remove the formulas from here. Now this is our formula. Now the moment I am copying it here, what is happening is the F2 has become G2. If I copy it further, sorry, if I copy it further, so again, this G2 has become H2, but this C4 and D4 are still the same. Now, if I copy this formula here, now you see the C here, earlier it was C4. Now that C4 has become C5 and D4 has become D5. Here again C5 and D5. So here we are, we have adjusted the formula in such a way that when we are copying it column wise, the columns are changing. But when we are copying the formula row wise, the rows are changing, but the columns are not changing. So this is what is called mixed referencing. So that's all pretty much from my side in today's session. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me by WhatsApp on this number, or even you can write an email to me. In the description of this video, you will get some questions along with Excel file containing the data for your practice. Hope to see you soon in next session. Thank you.